So this should be pretty fresh in your heads because you just had a test on it. So sensation and perception. What is sensation?
Stimulation of sense organs.
Taking stimuli in through the sense organs. What neurons are involved? Sensory neurons, right? Where do they go from?
Sense organs.
Sense organs to your brain. So we're talking about your skin, your eyes, your ears, your nose, and your tongue. Okay? What's perception?
Selection.
How you organize that information and how you process it. Okay? So someone like the man who mistook his wife for a hat in Oliver Sacks's book, right? One of his clients or patients, his sensation was working, like his vision, everything was working, but his perception was off. So he could he could sense the images or the features of a face, but he couldn't perceive them as a face. So he had what again? Prosopagnosia. Good job. Okay, absolute threshold, what is that? The minimum strength
that a person notices.
So the minimum stimulus strength that a person can detect. And it's like kind of like 50% of the time. So that question that I gave you where she tasted nutmeg, but she didn't, and then she did, it was right at her threshold. Okay? Good. What's just noticeable difference?
When you notice a change.
The minimum change in stimulus strength that someone can detect. Be careful not to say the minimum change in a stimulus. Because if I put a song and put another song, that doesn't count. It's the volume of the song, right? So the minimum change in stimulus strength that somebody can detect. What's Weber-Fechner law?
Just happens in proportion.
Good. Just noticeable difference happens in proportion. So if I have 10 pounds and I notice it getting heavier when it goes to 12 pounds, then if I have 100, I would notice it getting heavier when it goes to... It went from 10 to 12, so from 100 to 120. Because 10 to 12, it went up how many percent? 20%.
2 points.
Okay? And then 100, what's 20% more? 120. Understand? Okay. Signal detection theory says that our absolute thresholds are not that absolute. What's involved? Decision making, right? Good. So if you have something to gain or if you have something to lose, that kind of takes into consideration. If we did that demo again, where you guys raise your hand when you first hear the music, where we're checking for absolute threshold, and I say that if you raise your hand and the music's not there, you fail the class, you're gonna not raise your hand as quickly, right? So it depends on decision making. What do you call it when the stimulus is there and you say it's there? It's a hit. What about if it's there but you don't notice it? It's a miss. If it's not there but you say it's there. False alarm. And if it's not there and you say it's not there.
Correct rejection.
Good job. Subliminal perception means we take information in, but subconsciously it's below our threshold. Good. Below our threshold. Okay, sensory adaptation. The more you're exposed to a stimulus, you adapt to it and you stop noticing it. You stop noticing it. And then if you stop responding to it, that's habituation. It's like practically the same thing, okay? All right, good. So this is why, like the Febreze commercials, the people who own the dog don't smell the dog, but then someone who walks into their car, it's like a giant dog, okay? All right. What is the stimulus for sight?
Light waves.
Light waves, good. What is wavelength give you?
Color.
What's the mnemonic?
Colorful waves.
Colorful waves in the ocean. What does amplitude give you?
Brightness.
What's the mnemonic?
Amplitude,
altitude,
height, bright.
Good. What is purity?
Saturation.
Good. The wrinkles is for sound. We'll get to that in a second. Hold on.
Oh, those are the birdies we were talking about. They're gone now.
Oh.
You're like, don't want to get caught in here again.
Okay, here we go.
Put the birds outside.
So saturation means like the richness of color, right? You get that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We can see from about what to about what? Nanometers.
Oh.
200.
350, 700?
That's what I learned
50 to
again.
700. Good.
Yeah,
Thank you. Okay, the eye. Okay, so first light enters through the clear window.
Cornea.
Cornea, good. Then it goes in through the hole.
Eye.
Pupil. What opens and closes it?
Iris.
Iris. So the iris is actually a
Muscle.
muscle. And it's the colored part of your eye. Good. Then behind the pupil is the
Lens.
lens, which is like a curved round thing. Okay? And it flips the image just like a spoon would, and it also accommodation occurs, which focuses the image. So it's called accommodation. Good. Then, after it goes through the lens, it hits the back of the eye. What do we call the back of the eye?
Retina.
Retina. And on the retina there are
Rods.
rods and cones, which are the receptor cells for sight, for vision. What do rods do? Black and white,
Night.
peripheral, nighttime vision. Good. What do cones do?
Color.
Color,
Acuity.
acuity,
And see.
daytime. Okay, good. So remember the mnemonic for rods, someone standing with an iron rod in your periphery at night? Okay, and in the dark, if you're trying to look at something with the most acuity, you would look a little off to the side so that you use your rods, because your rods are in your periphery. Good. Remember the demo? So rods see periphery, cones see color, but they're like in front. Okay, what do you call the area of greatest visual acuity?
Fovea.
Fovea, because it has a lot of cones, so that's why we have great visual acuity. What do you call the blind spot?
Optic disc.
Optic disc. Why is it blind? Because there's no rods and cones, because if they were, they would
Block the
block the optic nerve. And the optic nerve needs a clear pathway so it can send information to
The brain.
the brain. Good. Okay, good. Nearsightedness versus farsightedness. If you wear glasses for far away, you are nearsighted because you have trouble seeing from far. If you wear glasses close, you are farsighted. Good. Which happens later in life. Usually farsightedness. Good. Bipolar versus ganglion cells. Which are first? Good. Because B comes before.
G.
Good. Okay, ready? This is on the test, remember?
Optic nerve.
Optic nerve.
Optic
Optic chiasm. Thalamus. Occipital lobe. One more time.
Optic nerve.
Optic chiasm. Thalamus. Occipital
lobe.
lobe. Good. Okay. Hubel and Wiesel, what did they study? Cats.
Feature detector.
Feature detectors, yes. So they found that we have specialized cells that respond to specific line orientations. Do we only have feature detectors in our occipital lobe? No, we have them for all the, basically all of your senses. Okay? Okay, ventral stream, what's the mnemonic? Venti,
What?
what would you like, and what
Temperature.
temperature. So ventral stream tells you what the object is, and it goes from your occipital lobe to your temporal lobe. Good. Dorsal stream, what's the mnemonic?
Where's Dory?
Where's Dory tells you where.
Pathway.
The where pathway tells you where the object is or if it's moving. And Dory is looking for her parents, so it goes from her occipital to her parietal. They always start, remember, optic nerves, optic chiasm, thalamus, occipital lobe. They always start here, but then they go either here or here. Okay? All right. Agnosia, yes, Akimi.
Dorsal, is that part of like depth perception?
Yeah, because depth perception, you're figuring out where things are, so it does influence it, yes. Good question. Agnosia, visual agnosia, you can't recognize objects. Prosopagnosia, you can't
Recognize faces.
recognize faces. Good. Plasticity. So just like in the brain, actual like feature detectors can be rewired and they can learn another feature detector's job. So for example, if you have a feature detector for vertical lines, but it dies or something, like that part of the brain gets removed, maybe the horizontal ones can learn this too. Understand? Okay, subtractive color mixing, what are you subtracting?
White.
So you end up with black or darker color. Additive, what are you adding? Light, so you end up with white light or a lighter light. Okay, so remember red and green give you yellow, which is lighter. Whereas here you're subtracting, so it gives you black. Theories of color vision, what's the theory called that you have 3 types of cones? Tribes, 3 chromatic, what are they? Red, green, and blue, good. What proves that?
Colorblind.
What kind of color blindness?
Dichromatic.
Dichromatic color blindness. So where someone's missing one of the cones and then they can't form those colors that they needed that to mix with, if that makes sense. And then complementary colors are the opposite colors, so the after image shows up in the complementary color. So if you see a red heart, you're going to see a green heart when you look away. If you look at something white, you're going to see black when you look away. Okay? So what does that prove? Which theory?
Opponent process.
Opponent process. Think opponent, opposite. Right? Which is correct? Both. Which is correct at the eye level?
Trichromatic.
Trichromatic. And then at the brain level?
Opponent process.
Opponent process. Good. So, trichromatic theory, in the eye, you do have 3 different types of cones. So that's correct, right? But then once you get to the brain, you do have like antagonistic responses. So the trichromatic theory is right at the eye level, and the opponent process theory is right at the brain level. Yeah. Okay, color and behavior. Red signifies danger. What does it do to IQ tests? Lowers them. You take an IQ test on a red scantron. Your scantron will be red one day. It is green. Yeah, that's all we get. The green ones. All right. Reversible figure, a drawing with 2 interpretations. It shows us that our experience of the world is subjective. We see what we want or expect to see. So if you see a bunch of drawings that look like a man's face, and then you see that rat man illusion, what are you going to see? The man. If you see a bunch of animals, and then you see the rat man illusion, you're going to see a rat, or the rat man reversible figure. We also see what we can relate to, so if you're young, you're more likely to see the young lady. Okay? Perceptual set, we have a set of expectations, and those affect what we see. Inattentional blindness, what is it?
When you don't see things because
When
you're
you don't
focused
notice
on
something right in front of you because you're focused on something else, hence guardrail. Okay, feature analysis is also known as bottom-up processing. We see the parts and then our brain puts it together into a whole. What proves that? Feature detectors. The fact that we see this and this like separately, right? Feature detectors proves it. Good. What's the other kind? Top down, we see the whole and then the parts, and we like check ourselves and then we see the whole again. So what proves that?
subjective contours.
Subjective contours. So this thing right here, we see a triangle even though there are no parts. Like there are actually not lines here. It looks like it, but it's not. Okay, so that's subjective contours. That proves top-down processing. Gestalt, what do you call the flip book?
Phi phenomenon.
So it happens because of the phi phenomenon, same way movies. So it's basically when pictures are presented quickly, one after the other, or the pouring beer. You know those neon signs where it's like this, and then like this, and then like this? It creates an illusion of
Motion.
movement or motion. Good. 6 Gestalt principles, which is the one that you group like all the same color together? Similarity. What about things that are close to each other? Proximity. Good. What about we like to follow continuous paths?
Continuity.
I meant to say smooth. Yeah. Continuity. What about if there are gaps in a thing, we still see it as the whole thing?
Closure.
Closure. And we organize things simply, simplicity, and then this is figure and grammar. Which one is like very gestalt? Simplicity. That's all about simplicity. The whole is greater than?
It's
Some of its part.
Good. Okay, perceptual hypothesis, we make guesses about what we see. Are we always right?
No.
No. We are influenced by our expectations. That's why you miss typos. Remember, you expect not to have typos, and you don't notice them. Okay, so perceiving depth. What do we call that?
Depth
Depth
perception.
perception. Yes. So first we're gonna do the two-eyed ones. Okay. The fact that when you close one eye and then close the other, you see a slightly different image in each eye. What do we call that?
Retinal disparity.
Retinal disparity. What about when you go like this? Your eyes turn toward each other?
Convergence.
Convergence. Okay, good. Those are both what kind of cues? Binocular depth perception cues. Monocular only require one eye. Okay? So when we're driving and the trees that are close to us like whoosh by, and then the ones far away go slowly, what is that?
Motion parallax.
Motion parallax. Okay, good. Now we're going to go into the picture cues, the pictorial depth cues. Okay? So the fact that the road, the lines appear to converge in the distance, what do we call that?
Linear perspective.
Linear perspective. Good. This is closer, it's lower in the picture.
Relative size.
Height in plane. Height in plane. Good. What about you can see the details here but not there?
Texture gradient.
Texture gradient, also known as
Relative.
relative clarity. Good. Light and shadow is just light and shadow. What am I missing? Interposition, what is that?
When one's over the other.
One blocks the other, but it overlaps. Interposition is the position of the objects. And then if we had cars on here, the car that's closer would look bigger. What do we call that? Relative size. Good. Okay. Perception is influenced by motivation. If we really want something, we think it's closer. Perceptual constancy, even though something might look like it's changing, we know it's still the same, right? Remember this thing? So it's a rectangle, right? But if I go like this, it projects a trapezoid on your retina, but you know it's still a rectangle. That's shape constancy. If I bring it close to you, we have to do this. It's taking up a bigger image or a bigger space on the retina, but we know that the size stayed the same, so what do we call that? Size constancy. You understand? If I were to dim the lights and you still know this is the same color, color constancy. Constancy just is like consistency, it stays the same. Cool? Muller-Lyer, remember?
You're a liar.
You're a liar, Muller.
They're not the
They're the
same.
same size. Okay, so it makes us think that the inside of a building is actually bigger, taller than the outside because of the way the arrows are going. Muller-Lyer. Why do we fall? Oh no, we're not there yet. Okay, impossible figure is a figure that can be done in 2D but not 3D. Good. Visual illusions. What we see is different from what's actually there, right? Like we see them as crooked lines, but actually they're not. Understand? Okay. And I proved it to you, remember? The Ames room. So why do we fall for the Ames room? Why does it look like she's big?
We're used to this.
Because we're used to 90-degree walls and ceilings and floors. Okay? So a culture that doesn't have 90-degree walls and ceilings and floors would they'd be like, okay, that's just the room. Right? Not that we fall for it, not that we think she's growing, but it looks like it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sound. Amplitude gives us loudness. Good. What is it measured in? Decibels. Good. Wavelength. Frequency gives us?
Pitch.
What's the mnemonic? Pitching balls at the waves frequently. And you miss and it hurts. Okay, Hertz. Hertz. Good. Purity gives us
Timber.
Timber. Some of you guys are talking in the back, you're not getting the most out of this. All right, so purity is timbre, basically, and that's the sound quality, like a sax versus a flute, like a different type of sound, raspiness versus like clean, right? So what was the mnemonic for timbre? Kesha sings timbre.
And it's
She's not
impure.
really, well now she's been praying, but she's
She's
not so
impure.
pure.
She's been
Purity,
praying.
timbre, Kesha. Purity, Kesha, timbre.
Somebody's in the
Okay,
house.
so timbre is actually the wrinkles in the waves, kind of like this. You see they're wrinkly? And then humans can hear from 20 up to 20,000 hertz. What happens as you get older? That number goes down, so you can't hear as high pitched as you get older. Okay, the ear. Where's your pin at? Here. What is it? It's the cone-shaped part of your ear, and it funnels in sound waves. Good. Which are the stimulus for sound. Good. Where do the sound waves go?
Auditory canal.
Auditory canal. Then it hits that
Eardrum.
which vibrates. Okay. Then it goes through the ossicles, which also vibrate and amplify the sound. The ossicles are 3 tiny bones called the anvil, hammer, and stirrup. Okay, tiniest bones in your whole body. Then, after the ossicles, it goes through the semicircular canals, which are part of the inner ear. And as we know, everything in the inner ear has what inside of it? Fluid, right? And they help you with balance, like those roller coasters, right? After the roller coaster, you need help with balance. Then it goes to the cochlea, which is shaped like a snail. Okay? Yeah, kind of like I get what you're saying. Kind of like a shell too. Yeah, like a snail shell. Yeah. So good. So the cochlea, what's the inner surface called? Basilar membrane. Good. And then it has hair cells, and those are the receptor cells, right? So just think Coachella, sound, right? Cochlea, and the base at Coachella, basilar membrane, right? And then from the cochlea, what exits? The auditory nerve, which sends messages to the brain. Okay, where does it go first? Thalamus, and then temporal lobes. Clear?
Yes.
Okay, place theory versus frequency theory. They help determine, or they help explain pitch perception. So how we can see, how we can know the difference between and okay? All right, so pitch perception. So let's see. If the one that talks about only specific areas of the hair cells move, what is that?
Place theory.
Place theory. So place theory says that depending on what area vibrates, that determines the pitch. Frequency theory says it's the whole
Basilar membrane.
it's all the hair cells on the basilar membrane vibrating, but the speed or the rate at which they vibrate, right? So, which is correct? Both. Which is correct for high pitch?
Place theory.
What's the mnemonic? Friends in
High
high places. So high frequency is going to be place theory. Low frequency is going to be frequency theory. Clear? Almost done. Once again, stimulus for vision is light waves. Stimulus for sound is sound waves. Wavelength for vision gives you color or hue. Wavelength for sound gives you pitch. Pitching at the waves. Remember, guys? Okay, good. Amplitude for vision gives you brightness. Amplitude for sound gives you loudness, measured in decibels. What's pitch measured in? Hertz. Good. Purity for vision gives you saturation. Purity for sound gives you timbre. Good. The receptor cells for vision are rods and cones. The receptor cells for sound are hair cells. Think of hairy ears. Not something you want to think about, but it'll work. Where the rods and cones are located? Retina. Where the hair cells are located? Basilar membrane of the
Cochlea.
Good. Of the cochlea. Processing in the brain for vision, where? Occipital lobe, primary visual cortex. Processing for sound, temporal lobe, primary auditory cortex. Great. Taste. What are the bumps called on your tongue?
Papillae.
Papillae, not taste buds. Papillae. What's around them?
Taste buds.
Taste buds are around them. Can we see taste buds?
No.
No, they're cells. We would need a microscope, right? So, good. So taste buds are the receptor cells for taste, but we cannot see them. Okay. What do we call the taste system? Gustatory, like gusto, or you could think me gusta, right? Like the food. Okay, good. So gustatory system. Do taste buds have a long or short life? Short. What are the 4 primary tastes?
Sweet,
Sweet and sour, bitter and salty.
salty.
Sweet and sour sauce. If someone's bitter, they're salty. Okay? What is the one they will probably try to trick you with?
Spicy.
Spicy, not a taste. What's the 5th kind of new taste? Umami, which means?
Savory.
Savory, also starts with an S. Alright? Okay, where does taste go? Frontal lobe, like your forehead, is the mnemonic. Okay, and think of a tongue stuck on someone's forehead. The hat is not helping me right now. Insulating it. So insular cortex in the frontal lobe. Okay, so from your tongue, it goes first to the thalamus. You guys were right, I heard some of you saying that before. And then to the insular cortex of the frontal lobe. Good. Taste is very, very social. Remember that was the question on the text.
Yeah.
So, you know, it doesn't matter where you're born or who you're born to. It's very, like, your taste can change very easily. Okay? So if right now you don't like healthy food, you could like train yourself. Okay. Taste sensitivity. Who's more likely to be a super taster?
Women.
Women. What do super tasters taste stronger? Sweet and bitter. That's right. Bitter, why?
Poison.
Because poison to prevent eating poison, and why sweet?
Energy.
High energy, survival type foods. Good. Super tasters tend to be more healthy, but they eat less vegetables because of the bitterness, but they also do less of what? Drinking and smoking and eating fatty foods. Taste aversion, you could eat something bad one time, get sick, and never want to eat it again. It's a survival thing, right? Except yourself.
Unless it's Chipotle.
Yeah, unless it's Chipotle.
Perception of flavor is not only influenced by your taste buds or taste preferences, but also
Odors.
smell or odor and tactile, the feeling of it, right? Like, think about this, like chicken soup, right? We like chicken soup. Would you like it if everything were pureed into one thing?
No.
You might not. I mean, you might, you know, babies eat it, but it's different, right? So the texture matters.
That's nasty. That's disgusting.
I like it. All right.
They're forced to eat it.
Olfactory system, what's the mnemonic?
Smelly
Smelly olfactory, so it's smell. What's the receptor cell for smell?
Olfactory.
Olfactory cilia, silly soft, olfactory.
Silly.
Old silly soft factory. Okay, smelly sock. Okay, olfactory cilia also have a short life. Okay, show me with your fingers. Where does it go?
To this.
Like this, like a hospital mask. So of course we know it goes to, oh no, this doesn't go to the pelvis, I lied. So it goes to which lobe? Temporal lobe, and smell is very important. The one sense that
Does
does not go to the thalamus, it bypasses it because smell developed before the thalamus developed. So
Does my rat have
or that's the theory in the history of evolution, that we had the sense of smell before we had a thalamus. So once the thalamus developed, smell was already going where it was supposed to go, if that makes sense. Temporal lobes, exactly. Yep. We have 350 different olfactory receptors, but we can make like 100,000 different combinations. So we smell 100,000 different odors, but we can't name them all. We don't have names for all of them. Okay. Touch. Look, guys, we're like perfect timing. Touch. What do you call the outermost layer of your skin?
Epidermis.
Epidermis. Under that? Dermis, and then low under subcutaneous layer. Okay? All right, physical stimuli. So we have receptor cells, mechanical, thermal, warm, cold, pain, blah, blah, blah. We have feature detectors once again. Specific areas in the brain correspond to specific patches of skin, which is kind of cool. The route. Show me the route. Skin, spinal cord, thalamus, somatosensory cortex, which is in the parietal lobe. One more time. Skin, spinal cord, thalamus, somatosensory cortex. So this is the only one that goes to the spine before it goes, or the spinal cord before it goes to the brain. We're almost done, guys. Okay, pain. Necessary for survival, right? We know that because it's warning, right? Okay, so pain is sent also to emotional centers of the brain, the amygdala, fear, so we avoid it later, the hippocampus too, so memory, the hypothalamus for fight or flight, all those areas. Fast pathway versus slow pathway, which is a quick ouch. Fast, which is the lingering pain. Slow, which is the A delta fibers. Fast, because you get an A, which is the slower one.
The
C. Okay, good. Pain perception, subjective, we know that. Difficult to measure, it's psychosomatic. What does psychosomatic mean?
Mind and body.
Mind and body both influence pain. We're influenced by placebo effects, so things that lessen pain. The placebo effect, if we think we took a pill that relieves the headache, your headache will already feel better because you think you took a pill that made it feel better. Willingness to tolerate pain, thinking it was an accident, looking at pleasant pictures. Okay? What increases pain? Looking at unpleasant pictures and thinking it was intentional or on purpose. Good. So pain is influenced by our expectations. What about gramaglia?
Chronic pain.
Chronic pain. Oh, gramaglia, my back. Good. Gate control theory. So that's the belief that the pain goes up through this pathway and sometimes the gates will close and stop the pain temporarily. Okay, gate control theory. Periaqueductal gray, that's the area that has what? What neurotransmitters?
Serotonin.
Serotonin and more importantly,
endorphins.
endorphins, okay, because pain relief. So if you cut the connections leading up to the periaqueductal gray, what happens? Your endorphins don't work, or like you don't feel it work. So basically that means that cutting that area would increase pain perceptions. Remember we said morphine doesn't work if you cut that area? Okay. So all in all, the senses work together to create our experience of the world. We're 2 minutes ahead of schedule. Good job, you guys. Do you want to do thank you. Thank you for coming.
We did that.
You guys?
We sound like 3 hours.
Thank you for sitting